Well, hello track gang, and welcome to episode 1 of the Bridge Guys. I'm Ray from the Boeville in Newtown, and what I'm going to be working on is the Central Valley Model Works gusseted girder bridge, the 150 footer. That's the top of it. As you all well know by now, that me and I'm going to take this off because I know it drives the camera nuts. But as you know, me, Rick, and John are going ahead and doing these bridges. So let me go ahead and swing the camera down here a minute. Alright, so I already set my workbench up here a little bit too, to kind of show what's going on. But so I've got the kit sitting here. I've already opened, I haven't opened it, but it's sitting here. And I've got a few of the essentials sitting here. Number one, my magnifying headgear, a T-square, or a square. Of course, the guy standing behind the bench is just as square as that, but that's beside the point. A broad flat file, just in case you need something a little bit bigger. If you need something a little bit smaller, we've got smaller files, needle files. I've also got a miter box and a back saw. Obviously, toothpicks, glue. This is just tester's glue. A couple different types of side cutters. Hobby knife with a number 11 blade and a pair of tweezers. No comment from the peanut gallery. A machinist's square. And of course the kit. And I've also set myself up with a straight edge that's actually, right now it's clamped to the bench so that way it will not move. And I've got a piece of glass underneath of it, so I've got a nice smooth surface to work against. The essentials. So let's go ahead and we'll pull this thing out of the bag. And the neat thing of it is, the Central Valley goes ahead and sends the parts in these neat bags. I have no idea if these bags are actually set up to be what you're supposed to be working on. You've got instructions, always helpful. Not that guys read them, but hey, I'm kidding. For something like this, trust me, I'm going to be reading every freaking word, and I'm probably going to read it more than once. I found out that these here are stiffeners that go up underneath. Of course, we don't need the bag now, hopefully. So that's it. So you've got 2 bags of parts, and I'm going to be going through now. What we're doing is we're actually going to be breaking this into different episodes, and I should probably come back up here in the light. See, not only does the light stink out there, but it also stinks back here. But I can move this one. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. And what we're doing is I'm sure that folks have probably asked this question and it may have already been answered, but if not, I'm going to kind of explain it on my terms. We decided, me, John, and Rick, that we were going to break this thing into a couple different episodes. And it'll be spread out, and we'll talk more about that and as we move along. But the first one is really going to focus for us on doing what they call the bridge floor, the floor assembly. So that's what I'm going to start on, and I'm just going to kind of break in and out of here, and we'll put it together, and stay tuned because we'll be back. Okay, so looking at the instructions, which I've conveniently hung over here off my shelf so I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm now going to unbag the first part of this, which, like I said, is going to be the floor assembly. And I just have to figure out. So it looks like part of it's on that. Part of it's on there. Part of it's on that one, and that one. And it looks like it might actually be on these as well. Okay. So it looks like all of these are going to be part of the bridge deck to start off with the floor assembly. So that's where we're going to be headed. So I'll be back. You know, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to show this because this is somewhat important. When you're de-spruing, it's very important, obviously, first off, to have a nice set of side cutters, or nippers, whatever you want to call them, so you can get nice and close to the part to get it off the sprue. Of course, this one here is going to be a little bit tricky. There we go. Because this one here is at an angle, number one. Number two, there's a little bit of flash. So now I've got a little bit of flash that I'm going to have to clean off of that as well, but we'll get to that. So I'm going to go ahead and de-sprue the rest of these, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've got the pieces that I need for this first assembly laid out in front here. I've got 10 of these, what they call splice joiners. I've got 5 of these crossbearers, and then I've got 12 stringers. So now the thing is I have to go through and I have to clean up the flash and anything extra that's on here. So what we're going to do, since we've got this nice, wonderful flat surface to deal with, pull out a piece of my crocus cloth so that it doesn't move too much. I'll loosen that up a little bit. Quick clamp it back in place. Now I've got a nice, now I can go ahead and sand on that. So what we're going to do is very lightly sand down the edges where things are going to get glued, and that way it's all nice and smooth, and that feels pretty good. So I'm going to continue to do that with the rest of the parts. So we'll be back. Okay. I kind of got a little bit ahead here, but I wanted to show what we've got going on. So this is the first basically assembly. You have to take the bridge sides, and you've got these neat little U-shaped joiners that you saw earlier. They hold these side pieces in, and then you snap the other ones in on top. Now this all has to be glued, so I think that's what I'm going to work on next. Is I'm actually going to go ahead and drop some glue in here and go ahead and clamp them and let it sit overnight, and we'll go ahead and we'll be back later. You know, one thing I forgot to mention when I was going through all the tools is how indispensable something like this or like these are going to be. These are going to be clamps that are going to hold this thing together, and we'll see what that looks like once I get finished gluing. Now, what I just did is I just kind of took this back apart real quick, because all I'm going to do is take and put one, hopefully this kind of shows up, but one little dab of glue on these little dots on the inside, so that way they hold themselves together. And then what we do is I'm going to take one of these clamps, clamp it on that side, and I'm going to take another clamp, I'm going to clamp the opposite side, and let it stay to dry. Okay, so here we are on night 2, and one of the things that they talk about with this one here, I'm on step 2 now. As you can see, I've got the base of the bridge laying here. Unfortunately, I noticed when I came down here earlier that my piece of glass cracked, and it's probably because this board that's underneath isn't very flat. So, unfortunately, the glass took a hit. But anyway, one of the things they talk about here is taking a file or a grinder, and you have to grind this down to a taper. Not completely, but you have to taper it off a little bit so you can slide it through the bridge. So I am going to attempt that. with a file because, unfortunately, I don't have a bench grinder. So, I'm going to attempt that, and we'll see what it looks like in a bit. Okay, so I just tapered one end of this, and if you can take a look, and you can see that there is a bit of a taper there. Instead of it being perfectly flat, there is a bit of a roll there, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other three here, and we'll start putting this together. And by the way, this is how I'm doing this, and it's somewhat tedious, obviously, but like I said, since I don't actually have a bench grinder, this is the only thing I could do. One of the other things that's actually going on tonight is the fact that I'm sitting here. Last night I was watching Tom's Trains and things while I was doing this. Tonight I'm listening to Heath on Track Tuesday and trying to do this. So, anywho, and it happens to be, because of the fact that I probably didn't mention it last night, it happens to be the 18th of August. So, anyway, what we've done is I've gone ahead and I've tapered these dudes off, and now I've got to thread them through the bracing, and I've got to add these dudes in between. So this is going to be tedious, and it's the other thing I've noticed is that these things are not perfectly straight, but we'll see how things play out here. Hopefully I can get these in here without breaking apart the stuff that I did last night, because if I do, that is really going to stink, and I'm not going to be happy about that. But I'm sorry, Heath, that I went ahead and had to mute you there, buddy, so I could do this, but it is what it is. Come on. Get your batuckus in there, dang it. I got it through the first one, but I can't get it through this intermediate. I'm wondering if I'm going in from the wrong direction here. Hold on. There we go. And just like with the other parts that I cut out last night, I had to do a lot of cleanup work for the flashing and things of that nature, and you saw that last night, so I wasn't going to go ahead and do it again. So there you go. So I have to thread this one through, and then I got to thread the other one in there, so we'll be back. Okay, so this process was a bit fiddly. First off, I'm going to tell you right now, of course I didn't show it, but the middle and the two spacers to either side of the middle, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so the fifth, the center one here, the third one, and the ones to either side, you're going to have to take your hobby knife and open up the hole a little bit for the bar to go, for that metal to slide in between. So I got that done, so now the only thing I got to do is I got to go back and I'm going to have to glue these other spacers in so it'll help hold the bridge, and of course you've got the metal in there that's a nice stiffener, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Now, yeah, I did use a pair of so I could grab the metal without cutting my fingers open, so that's just another tool to add to the toolbox. Alright, now that I got the strengthener in there and I've gone ahead and I've glued the those extra cross members, I've now gone ahead and clamped across it, as you can see. Now, one of the things I am going to point out with this is if you are going to use these quick clamps, obviously you don't need to get in there and, you know, that's just enough just to hold things together. So that's it for right now. Alright, so this step's a real bugger. You got to go ahead and glue these X-braces on the template before you can actually put them on the bridge. The thing of it is, too, is I just found out that there's a bit of an overhang here, so I'm hoping that everything lines up when I'm done. Okay, so folks, so this piece was a little bit of a bugger. This is the last part of the floor assembly. And what you have to do is you actually have another sheet that gives you a template, and I think I showed this already, but that's okay, of how these are supposed to work. Now, one of the nice things is, looking at some other video, I realized that there's going to be another girder that sits on top of this. So, what I tried to do is line up the front side of this as best I could, and then the back side is a little wonky. because it doesn't line up as well as they say it should. I don't know if that's going to cause me a problem down the line, but we'll see what happens. So this is the first section of my bridge done. Sorry for the late, but here we are at part 2 of the bridge build, so I'm going to show you what's going on. This one here is a little bit shorter than the first one, I guess, thankfully, but let's go ahead and we'll swing the camera here and I'll show you what we've got going on. So what I did, and what I'm doing here, is these are the bridge decks, and you've got the rails go into these areas here, and what they tell you to do is to smear the spikes over the rail. Okay, fine. I did that on the first one, and I'm getting ready to do the second one, and I'm going to go ahead and add the other ones. Now, one of the things that you'll probably notice over here, and I'll show this in more detail once I get done, but I've got normal track ties sitting on the end of this thing, and there's a reason why. They tell you that you wanted to cut the rails at 23 inches. Well, that's all well and good. My problem is I'm not exactly sure how this is going to fit into wasn't sure how it was going to fit into the layout. So I've gone ahead and I've actually added 3 inches to either end of that. So it's actually 29 inches. The other reason why I did that is because on the one end of this, it's going to butt right up against the switch. So instead of having to piece it like it is now with the temporary bridges, I'm going to go ahead and actually make this one piece, and I'm going to have to cut the piece of flex track that's out there, but that's fine. I just want this to be one solid piece with a little bit of with a 3-inch overhang on either side. That way I don't have to worry about the rails getting out of gauge, and I'm leaving the original ties on there to help with that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish putting these son of a guns up underneath of here and smearing the track tie, or smearing the spikes over, as they call them, and we'll see what it looks like when we're done. Okay, so we're still here at the bench after a snafu of sorts. As you know, and you saw, because I went ahead and I still put it in there anyways, and I'm sorry if the light, it's the lighting. I tell you what, no matter where I go, the lighting sucks. But you know that I was trying to work on the bridge deck for the bridge, and I had a bit of an issue, and it's something that I don't think normal people would have run into. The funny thing of it is JD and Rick didn't have any issues with this particular part at all, and of course we all know that Rick's a complete novice at this. So, but anyway, thanks to JD, because what he ended up doing was sending me 2 sets of Pico 83 code 83 flex track, because the flex track that I had was labeled as GL Italy. It's nickel silver, but for whatever reason the base of the rail was too big to fit into or onto this bridge. So I'm going to let you all know now that if you're going to build one of these, you're probably better off either using Atlas or, in this case, Pico. And I'm going to show you exactly what he sent me. He sent me this. So this is Pico. This is the track that JD just sent me, Grandpa Rails. And I've already test fitted it on one of these bridge sections, one of these guys, and it slides right on in there, which is something I could not get the other flex track that I had to do. And honestly, it is the same stinking stuff. Now, obviously, this one here has been kind of torn apart, and there was a reason, and you're going to see what I'm doing here, and I think I may have mentioned it already in the other part of the video, but, I mean, it's the same stinking stuff. So I don't know what was different with this, other than the fact that maybe it was a generic. I have no idea. But regardless, we're going to go with the Pico track, And I am going to do the same thing that I was going to do with the other rail, and that is I'm going to leave a section off the end of the bridge, 3 inches to either side. So the bridge is 21, they recommend 23, we're actually going 29. So that's what we're going to work on next. I'm going to go ahead and strip back some of these ties, and we're going to go from there. So we'll be back. Stop! Okay, so I've got my 3-inch section off to one end here, and I'm going to attempt to slide the rails off of the ties here. Not in that direction, dang it. This might be a little bit tougher than what I expected. But that's okay. You know what, it might just be just as easy to slide that off and just slide it back on once I'm done. Ah, here comes one rail. And now we should be able to slide off. That's fine. And we can put those aside for the moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to try this again. In actuality, what did I just do? There it is. Actually, I don't have to slide this in here. It'll just lay in there. I need to make sure I get the right piece on here. Perfect. Okay, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go ahead and do this, and we'll be back in a bit. Do you ever have one of those aha moments? Well, we have an aha moment here, because it's together. So, now, what I can do, hopefully without breaking anything here, is lay this on here and see how it fits. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Me likey. The only thing I am noticing here is the fact that I'm going to have to slide these out a little bit. There we go. Perfect. And then I can go ahead and I can take these other tie strips that I pulled off the other end here, and I can actually get this set up to where I want it. Because like I was explaining before, and you'll see it eventually once we get this thing done, this side needed to hang out a little bit longer than the bridge itself, because there's actually the switch that leads into the switches that lead into the yard over here. So this needed to be this is a fairly critical measurement over here. So I'm hoping I got it right. Because if I didn't, I'm going to be mad. But that's okay, because I can always go ahead and do the same thing over here. I can just flip the thing around and then, you know, whatever. But, oh yeah, so much easier when you have the right track. So that's one of those words of wisdom, I guess, I can go ahead and throw out there. If you're ever deciding to go ahead and do this in HO scale, make sure you're using either Atlas or Pico. Or if you really wanted to do it the right way, and I was really thinking about this unfortunately, after I got started, is the fact that Microengineering makes bridge track, literal bridge track. And I had actually almost thought about doing that. The only problem with that is that it's a little steep, it's not cheap, but you know, for the first time, I'm going to do it this way. And if I ever do like John, like JD's doing, where he's got multiples, which I've still got one other bridge. If I really wanted to buy one of these and put it next to this one, I could do that. But this is cool. And the amateur goes ahead and wins back some points. After getting sidelined. So, as they say, on to the next.